Welcome to Unapologetically Fly, the podcast, where we discuss what it takes to be unapologetic about finally living for yourself, no matter the age, situation, or circumstance. I'm your host, Renee Mitchell-Simpson, the self-love and happiness coach and founder of Well Diva Lifestyle and Travel. I'll be bringing you experts, friends, coaches, and those in my network to help us aunties navigate reinventing our life at this big age, because sis, it truly is never too late to fly, and by fly, I mean finally live for yourself. All right, so I know I need to do an episode where I kind of tell you a bit about who I am and, well, who the Well Diva is and how all that got started and Unapologetically Fly. So I'm going to give you a little backstory on all of that. I started Well Diva, I want to say 2014 was when I first started calling my company Well Diva Lifestyle, and eventually people started referring to me as the Well Diva because I combined my passion for wellness and fashion and all things fabulous. So I guess the diva part kind of comes from my mom, because I used to call her Queen Diva because she was like the most diva that I knew. So that's where that comes from. But Well Diva stands for a woman equipped to live a life designed for infinite victory and abundance. So that's W.E.L.L, D.I.V.A, right? So I came up with that, and then I started thinking, well, damn, is that me? Is that my life? And as I looked at my life, I did not feel that it was totally Well Diva. I felt like there were some things in my life that I needed to tweak, more than tweak, like really some big changes had to be made. Back in 2014, I was living in California. I was married. I'm not sure how old my daughter was at that time. She was like 10. And I believe we had lost a daughter at that time, maybe the year before. I had a daughter who she lived in the NICU, neonatal intensive care unit, for her entire 4 months. And she came home with us only to pass away a few days later. Basically, we ran out of insurance, so they sent her home with us. We were pretty much set up for failure. Even though we had all the equipment, we just couldn't sustain a human life at home, right? So in my healing journey, I started baking. And so I call that sweet tooth therapy. I actually ended up selling the baked goods because I made so many baked goods. But after that, I started Well Diva Lifestyle. And part of that, I wanted to do wellness retreats. So that's where the travel part came in. The wellness was because I was a nutritionist. I was working in the hospital as a registered dietitian. So that's where the wellness part comes from. And then the travel came from me wanting to share my wellness expertise on a trip. So I started doing these wellness retreats. And it was interesting how the first one happened. I was doing half marathons. And if you've been following me for a long, long time, you may have seen my series on YouTube called Bed to Half Marathon. You know, people who run, they know about couch to 5K, because a lot of times you go from the couch to doing a 5K, but I literally went from the bed to doing a half marathon. So I did a video series about that. But anyway, one time I was signing up for a half marathon, and this was in San Francisco, I believe. And I'm in line to get my bib. And I start talking to some ladies who are also in line to get their bib. I don't know these ladies from Adam. And we start talking, and I share with these ladies that I'd like to start doing wellness retreats. And I'm just trying to decide on where to do a retreat. And I tell them that I just did the half K in Temecula, California, which is like wine country in Southern California. If you know Northern California, wine country is Napa Valley, one of my favorite places. But Temecula is not as well known. But anyway, it's gorgeous. So I'm telling these ladies, I'd love to do a wellness retreat in Temecula. And they're like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. And I said, but I'm trying to decide between Temecula and Sedona. And I want to do these retreats in memory of my daughter who passed away, right? So I didn't share that part with them, but in my mind, I'm thinking, that's what this is all about. So I said, it's either going to be Temecula or Sedona. And one of the ladies says, oh, Sedona. Hands down, no doubt, Sedona. So I'm like, well, why? Because I'm leaning more towards Temecula. I've been there, it's gorgeous, but I've heard of Sedona and I've never been. So I'm leaning more towards Temecula. So I'm like, why Sedona? And the lady says, because it's so serene. Listen, y'all, this lady had no idea that my daughter's name was Serene. So I just about fell out right there in the line to get my bib. I'm thinking, wow. So that's how the first wellness retreat came about, the self-love and happiness retreat in Sedona. And so I started doing that retreat every year on the anniversary of Serene's passing, because that was such a difficult day for me to get through. The first few years after her birth, I started getting, or after her passing, I started getting these invitations to do wonderful things on the day of her birth and on the day of her passing. And I finally got the hint. She did not want me grieving on those days. And so I say to you, if you've lost a child or if you're grieving a parent or anyone who's passed on, I can tell you myself, I truly believe that person does not want you holding on to grief and remembering them in such a sad way on the days that remind you of them the most. That person wants you to go on and enjoy life. They want you to smile. They want you to feel joy. So particularly on the day of her birth and the day of her passing, February 4 and October 4, those are the days that I host my wellness retreats and make sure that I'm doing something that really brings me joy. So the first retreat was in Sedona, and it was truly magical. All of the ladies they bonded. We had a good time. They came back like they were changed. I would see their posts on Facebook and they'd say hashtag the Well Diva effect, because they were coming back cooking, plant-based, they were eating healthier. It was just an amazing experience. So that's how that all got started. And I'm going to stop here because that's the beginning of Well Diva. And I think I can take you into a whole nother episode for part 2. All right. Thank you for joining. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Unapologetically Fly. I hope you found something in this episode that inspires you to finally live for yourself. We all know someone afraid to live their dream and chronically complaining about some part of their life. Be a blessing and send this to that person. And make sure you write a review wherever you're tuned in and subscribe so we can make the world a better place, one fly auntie at a time. See you on the next episode.